Starcom Radio Network. Storm surge, one of the big issues on Florida's coast right now.
Hello.
Joining us on Starcom Radio Network is attorney Scott Mager. He is a national...
Scott Mager.
Yes, this is a... we're live, Scott. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, pal?
Really bad right now. We have stations all throughout where the storm surge is probably going to knock them down. We have listeners that have relocated from the coast. So I'll tell you what, it's really a bad day for a lot of the people on the network today. What should they be prepared to in terms of reaction after they get whacked? After this thing is hit tonight, what are some of the smart moves they can make that will protect their insurance claims and help them recover quickly?
First, thank you very much for having me. Glad to share the information. There are two components that I would say. If the storm has not already gotten through you want to make sure that you go out quickly and take some photographs so you have some pre-damage photographs or videos of the inside and outside of your house so that you make sure that after the storm gets through, you can justify and document that there was no damage beforehand, and now there's damage afterward. If you've done that, then what you do is once the storm comes through and it's safe to go back outside, you go back out and you take photographs or videos of any damage that you have to your property on the outside or the inside. On the outside, it can be related to the structure, the windows, the doors, to the walls, to the roof, whereas on the inside, you look at things like your ceiling, your fans, you look at clothing, has any water come in and damaged any rugs or anything like that, so that you have a clear and definable list of exactly what the damages are. Since in Florida they have declared an emergency and the federal government has declared an emergency, you have two avenues of money to secure. One is through FEMA and one is through your insurance policy. FEMA has a way, they'll give you a phone number, and there's a national FEMA.gov site you can go to, and you can call them up, and they give temporary housing assistance and other types of monies up to a certain amount, depending upon whether you have insurance coverage or not. If you don't, you immediately call your insurance company. Don't call your agent, because your agent is not the insurance company. So you call the insurance company, and you tell them, I have damage, I want to open a claim. You immediately do that because it's first in, first out. You want to get ahead of the millions of people who are going to be making claims, so it is critically important you call them. Once they get in contact with you, they will give you a claim number. Once they give you a claim number, now you start what I call the letter writing campaign. And that is you start writing to them, asking them when they're going to have an adjuster out to your location, whatever they represent to you on the phone. You write them and confirm it. Thank you very much for agreeing to have the adjuster out tomorrow. Love and kisses you. And alternatively, as you go along, when they tell you they're going to do things, you immediately do the same exact scenario, and you go and make sure that you are constantly writing them to come out and to make sure that they adjust your claim and that they give you money. On your own, you also want to go and hire your own either general contractors or roofers or plumbers or whatever the experts are that can give you estimates. Because if you have different estimates, it's going to support your claim just as significantly as it would be if you wait for them to come out. And it actually produces a stronger and more viable claim when you have multiple experts. Very, very important, if for some reason you have some damage, like let's say you've got some wood shingles or some shingles that have fallen off your house or windows that are broken, don't simply throw them away. Make sure that you take pictures of those, and in addition to taking pictures of those, make sure that you tell the insurance company if you're going to dispose of them, hey, I've got broken shingles here, what do you want me to do with them? Do you want me to hold them so you can inspect them? If they say no, you can throw them away and you have something documented. If they say yes, great, you hold on to them, then you can do your repairs and they can come out and see those things so that there's no claims or confusion whatsoever regarding the validity of your claim and the exact damages you're doing.
Boy,
you're
Scott,
going to make a meeting.
You are so what we need right now. This idea of photographing everything really ties into what we've been doing in every other area of our life over the past several years with the iPhones and cameras everywhere. Finally, a day when it matters greatly to each and every family. It's interesting. I'm listening to you, and I imagine you've been through so many of these natural disasters. Is this what's prompted you to write and to share with the public? Do you notice when you go to these scenes, and you've been involved before, how out of the loop some people can be, and they need to be just the opposite?
It's an excellent point, and the answer is yes. I've been through dozens of storms myself. I've given testimony and helped cities, governments, and states from New York to Louisiana to all aspects and counties in Florida. It is extremely important to understand that you have to provide documentary evidence, because if you ask the average consumer, if you ask 100 consumers, 100 of them will tell you they don't understand their insurance policy. It's a complicated document. They have no idea how much coverage they have. They have no idea what to do or what's covered or what's not. So it is critically important, and I learned this from experience, that you make sure that you create your own evidentiary record so that in the future, even if you're not an expert in this, even if you don't know what you're doing, you have a clear set of documentation that is supporting, hey, I had a perfect house before, now I have damage. Hey, I had good shoes, and now they're soaked. Hey, I had problems, that existed before, but they had nothing to do with the damage that occurred here. You're documenting and making a great case for yourself, and it's also helpful to understand that this carries on before and after the storm. I take pictures of my residents and inside and out of my businesses on a regular basis anyway, and just scan them up. Because if you do it periodically, you're going to get yourself into a great habit of doing that. And it's so important with consumers to do that. And it's also important, if you don't know and you're confused, pick up a phone, call up a lawyer expert who's done this, who's done natural disaster claims, and have them explain your policy to you. Call up your broker, the insurance agent who sold you, and say, what is my coverage? How much money can I get if I damage my shoes or my windows or my doors or my roofs? When can I get that money? What specifically should I be asking the insurance company to expedite my claim? What are you going to do, since you sold me the insurance, to help me to expedite that claim? Because I'm not an insurance expert. That's what I pay you for. And you'd be surprised at how productive and helpful that can be. And what's interesting about lawyer experts in this area that I want to mention to your listeners is that people don't understand that lawyers, for example, when I handle cases, we rarely charge people because we can get the monies collected from the insurance company if they don't pay. So oftentimes you can have lawyers that will cost you a low amount of money or no money, depending on whether the insurance company agrees to pay or not, which also offsets and gives you a promotable ability to say, hey, I can hire an expert and I don't have to come out of pocket up front. And it's a very important thing for everybody to understand. Public adjusters are out there also. Those are experts who help adjust claims. They're also possible to help, and they can be helpful in many ways. The disadvantage of them is that they don't have a law degree, so they can't file suit. But the advantage to them is oftentimes they handle a lot of claims, and they can process your claim quickly. If you're going to hire any expert, you make sure you have in writing, whether it's the lawyer or the public adjuster, exactly what they're capable of doing, what they're going to do each week, make them write you each week or each month, and put that on the contract so that you don't have somebody who comes out, quickly gets you some money, and then sits back and waits until you file suit, and then tries to collect some additional money. And the last thing I'll say is make sure anybody who does a repair, any expert who handles anything having to do with your property, make sure they have insurance themselves and they give you a certified copy of their policy, and that they're reputable and they have business experience and they provide you with references. Because it is stunning how many times we have people who get repairs done, either by unqualified experts or experts that create problems or damage, and then they can't sue those people or recover from any funds or any insurance because they don't do that. If you follow these rules, you will be successful a exponentially greater amount of time than if you don't do that.
Attorney Scott Mager is our guest on Starcom Radio Network. And again, we have affiliates up and down the target area of Hurricane Matthew right now. So what I'm going to do, Scott, I have a couple of more questions, but I want you to know we are going to take this interview and make the MP3 copy of it available to our listeners all up and down the coast. This is really a very important segment, and we're very grateful to you for joining us today right in the heat of the moment. You mentioned...
And I want to thank you. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you the opportunity to share this information because so few people know about this, and it's so critically important. We have a duty as intelligent people in this area to share this information to help each of your listeners recognize what options are available to them and that there are real and valuable remedies available to them if they do the right things.
Absolutely. I agree with you 1,000%. It is that urgent and important. You mentioned a moment ago being aware of your own insurance coverage, what is covered. Is this perhaps a good time when you're waiting for the storm to hit to get the policy out and sit there and pore over it a bit, see how much of this you do fully understand, reread it, talk about it with another adult family member, and get a handle, a working knowledge of what your insurance coverage actually is?
Yes, I think it's a brilliant idea and a great point that you raised. I tell you that I tell people all the time, if you don't have a copy of your insurance policy, you don't know what's covered and what's not. Secondly, if you're not a person who understands the complicated language of an insurance policy, you can take it out, you can call your insurance company or your insurance agent and say, take me through and explain to me in English what coverage I have so that I understand exactly what coverage I have and don't have. On the front page of every insurance policy is called a declaration sheet, and it's a sheet of paper that tells you, here's what I'm covering for the structure of your house. Here's what I'm covering for the contents of your house. Here's what I'm covering for the additional living expenses, or ALE, in case you have to move out of your house or go live in a hotel. Here's what's covered for other structures if you have a separate garage or a shed or a pool. And it's very important that you understand what those coverages are. And that's in a typical homeowners or residential type of policy. If you have a flood policy, it'll be different. And it will cover water-related events, like water coming in through the pipe or something that rolls in, say, over your doors and throughout your doors, as opposed to something like a leak that comes from your roof, which is more under the residential policies. And I want to add something I think is important. If you don't understand, call and find out. But just as equally important is to understand that this applies also in business settings, in commercial settings. It applies if you have a business and you have insurance. You may have business interruption insurance that pays for your employees when they can't work, that pays for loss of sales, that gives you advance monies to run your business when you otherwise wouldn't be able to make sales and do things. That's critically important. If you're in a condominium, or if you're in an area where they have usually a general overriding condominium policy where you're buying an insurance policy to cover from the drywall in, on the inside, you need to make sure that you have coverage for all of the things that are related and are inside your house so that you understand that you can go to the condo policy for what's outside your house, but you know what's covered that's inside your house. And it's very important. You also can buy policies, insurance policies, where you can check and see, are they going to pay for the replacement cost value of the item, or are they going to pay for just what is the value of the item? You can imagine if you had to replace, a piece of furniture and you spent $1,000 for it, and now you had to go out and spend another $1,000 for that piece of furniture, you'd want to be paid the $1,000. If you have a replacement cost value policy, it will pay that. If you have an actual cash value policy, it will pay the depreciated value of that. That might be $200. So it's important for you to know those things, and then you can take more important steps to make sure, okay, I've got some things that aren't going to be paid for in a replacement way. I better make sure those are stored away from any possible damage. So the most important items to me are not going to get caught up in getting damaged and then not being able to get the full recovery for those. And so, yes, it's very important to know what your policy says, to have the phone numbers for the insurance company, and to ask questions. That's what you pay your agent to do for you when they secure insurance, to give you a product, a promise, an insurance coverage that will enable you to have the comfort of knowing that after a catastrophic event or even a non-catastrophic event, that the insurance company will honor that promise, make you whole, and allow you to quickly and expeditiously carry on your life with the least amount of interruption and dismay.
Attorney Scott Mager is our guest on Starcom Radio Network in the hours leading up to Hurricane Matthew striking the coast of Florida and then making its way up the coast of the eastern United States. This is very valuable information. As I mentioned a moment ago, we will make the MP3 copy recording of this interview available to all of our listeners who need it. This is the primer you're not going to get on this kind of issue anywhere else in broadcasting today. I see way too much hype and not enough information like this on the air, and Starcom is proud to have Scott with us today. Scott, we did mention this at the beginning of the interview, but I want to, for reinforcement purposes, certainly for people who've just tuned in during the interview. It's a critical point. The insurance company is there to offer you insurance. You have the duty of mitigating your damage and documenting your damage. I want you to elaborate on layman's terms here just a bit, the kind of confusion that first-time residents in an area being struck like today, or those who have never used their disaster insurance before, can be at a loss for. Make these lines clear for us again. You do such a great job. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I can tell you that, understand, insurance companies don't repair houses. Insurance companies don't repair condos. They pay money. They take a premium for a promise, and they pay money. It is your duty to take all the steps you need to take to protect your property. What does that mean? That means protecting your property beforehand to the extent that you can alleviate, mitigate, or reduce the damage that could be caused by a storm. And then once a storm occurs, that you make sure you mitigate. If there's water pouring in from your roof, that you take steps to try to correct that so it doesn't damage the rest of your house. If you have broken glass, that you board it up or you do things which will protect against further damage. That is the quintessential thing that a homeowner, a business owner, or anybody who purchases insurance has to understand. And if you do that, then what you're doing is you're honoring your duty to make sure that you are telling the insurance company, I only want what I deserve, but I do want what I deserve, and I do deserve what I deserve. And so it is important for them to understand that when you have a claim, presume for the moment that there is a mass destruction around you. Even if you have a small claim, you're going to have tens, thousands, millions of claims made. So what makes your claim more likely to get paid? Well, you're more likely to get paid if, number one, you have documentation, you have those pictures, they're clearly delineated, you have hundreds of them, and you have video or whatever else you have to document, that you've told the insurance company, and the squeaky wheel gets the oil, that you've gone ahead and written them, and then you call them every day or every other day. If they tell you they're going to have an adjuster out on September 5th or 2 weeks after the storm, then you hold them to it. And if they don't show up that next day, you write them, dear insurance company, I know you promised an agent to come out on September 5th or whatever the day it was, and they didn't come out. Please write them immediately today and tell me why they're not coming out. Love and kisses you. If they don't write, the next day you write them again. Conceptually, what you're doing is understanding that you have to be an advocate for your claim. You have to make sure that you understand that you are the one who's going to end up, really deciding and determining how much money you're going to get. And if you do that, if you're aggressive, and I don't mean aggressive being mean, it just means to pursue your claim and to make sure you get paid, you are more likely to get an adjuster out there sooner, which is what the insurance company sends out, their representative that goes out and evaluates the property, and you're much more likely to get paid. If you understand that, and you understand, hey, how could I make my claim even stronger? Well, when the adjuster comes out, you have your own general contractor or roofer out there to explain to that person, hey, you missed this damage. Hey, you should look on this roof. Hey, you should look over here and make sure you check that. That's also going to help you. So you surround yourself with intelligent people. You make intelligent decisions. You're more likely to get the claim paid faster and to get the most money, because most of us don't know a lot of times what damage there is. A lot of times you could have roof leaks. You may not even know it because your ceiling doesn't fall in for 3 weeks later. You don't know after a storm that maybe some water's there, maybe it leaks a little bit, but you don't realize that your ceiling's bad. You don't realize that water's got in behind the walls. That's why after a storm and after an event, if you get your general contractor, you get your friends or your fellow repairmen out there to do it, they can go out and find these things, and then when the adjuster for the insurance company comes out, you're standing there armed with reports from these people, with these people there to answer questions saying, hey, this is the damage. I'm really sorry, but this is what they're documenting the damage needs to be. When are you going to pay me? When are you going to have a repair done? When are you going to have somebody out here to further protect my property because I can't get up and do my own roof? And I don't have the money to go and do that by myself. I need your assistance. That's why I bought and paid you a premium for the promise you were going to give me to make sure I was made whole and I was protected by way of securing insurance benefits. So those things are really important for the consumer to understand, and it applies the same for businesses, the same for condos. And if you recognize that and make sure that you're vigilant about that, you are going to be enormously successful, having handled thousands and thousands of these claims, having been both on the chief of the largest insurance company in the world on the legal side and sued insurance companies and provided testimony and been in hearings and helped cities and governments. I am telling you that this is the way that you will maximize the claim and reduce the already nightmarish headaches that are associated with recovering from a storm.
Natural disaster expert Scott Mager, can we just touch on one more point, and that is,
sure, of course.
We've got a declaration of the governor now has declared a disaster area of the state of Florida. How does that play into our individual listeners assessing damage, coverage of damage? How big a factor will FEMA be, and what's the best way to operate in concert with FEMA if, in fact, they are servicing your area?
Okay, there are two components to that. One, the state of Florida, through the Emergency Management Division on Executive Order 16-230, the governor has declared a official state of emergency. They have then reached out to the federal government, who has separately made a declaration of emergency in natural disaster area, because that triggers the federal decision, triggers the federal relief. So FEMA comes from the federal government. The state government also has certain additional funds that will be allocated. But what you do is, now that it's been done, you recognize, hey, I can either go to FEMA.gov, FEMA.gov, or I can check with my local counties, cities, mayors, governors. They'll be giving you the phone numbers, direct lines of FEMA and also local state assistance that you can dial up and make individual and independent claims. Because not everybody has coverage for everything, and some people don't even know that they don't have coverage for certain things. And FEMA will step in and help you with the individual types of grants and emergency assistance in that regard. So it's very important to understand that you have both your insurance policy to cover, and if the insurance policy doesn't cover, you have the ability to go to the state or the federal government and reach out and secure claims from them by finding out their contact information, making a claim with them, and using the same vigilance that you would use if they were an insurance company.
Scott, you're amazing. You're a true public servant today. I want people to know that you are a natural disaster, of course, insurance expert, but also an author who has written hundreds of articles. I'm sure you'll be writing something in the aftermath of this storm, and today we are so grateful for your time. The website to follow up with you is Mager, M-A-G-E-R, Paruas, P-A-R-U-A-S.com. What a great opportunity, and you're so generous with your time today. I thank you for being a part of the show.
And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share this very needed information with all the listeners out there, and I wish everyone the best of luck in their endeavors. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Scott. Scott, we're going to call upon you in the aftermath to give some more of your great insight and guidance, but today was a true public service for Starcom radio listeners up and down the East Coast of the United States. Have a great day.
Thanks a lot. You call me whenever you need, any time of day or night. I'll help out your citizens.
You are the man. Attorney Scott Mager, right on the front lines professionally for those who are stepping back saying today, I hope I'm prepared, I hope I'm insured. Now you have a live, in-person checklist that we will make available to you via MP3 recording from Starcom Radio Network. Here's the latest on Hurricane Matthew.
I want you to be part of that history.